kind of gone nowhere, given Congress just grilled the CEO amid discussions to potentially ban the app altogether. Let's bring in the reporter who helped break that story, CNBC.com's Brian Schwartz. A large lobbying expense, but I can't remember a topic or a time where, recently that is, where Congress seemed as unified as it is right now about the idea of busting up TikTok or banning it in the U.S.
Yeah, you're right, 100% right. This is something really become a bipartisan effort to attempt to ban TikTok. Now, we don't really know if they're going to actually get to that point. There are a variety of bills that are being discussed in Washington right now that could end up banning TikTok from being downloaded on U.S. platforms, phones, and the like. But right now, there's a lot of chatter, a lot of push in that direction. And it was coming really as TikTok and ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, spent, as you said, millions of dollars on lobbying. And in many cases, the people we spoke to for this story either shrugged off the lobbying efforts, the in-person and over-the-phone engagements from TikTok and ByteDance to lawmakers on Capitol Hill, or after they would have some of these meetings, as an example of this, they would move forward with bills that really could hurt TikTok and possibly see it banned at the end of the day. So they don't have that many allies on Capitol Hill. They clearly have a few, but it may not be enough to stop the company from being impacted by future legislation.
Brian, are the lawmakers writing off entirely that their constituents use TikTok? And maybe, they think of it as, well, if it's young people may not either be old enough to vote or maybe less likely to vote, and so I don't have to worry about them. But that ignores the fact that a lot of entrepreneurs have a revenue stream from their TikTok accounts.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it really depends on who you talk with, right? When you speak to people in and around people like Jamal Bowman's orbit, right? He was somebody that held a press conference around the time the TikTok CEO was on the Hill. And that press conference featured many TikTok users. And I think in the United States, it's about 100 million TikTok users right now. Those are a lot of votes for whoever wants to run for office. And so, if you're a Jamal Bowman or let's say, for instance, an AOC, Ocasio-Cortez, that is the line they are taking when it comes to why TikTok shouldn't be banned. But on the other side of things, on the other side of the coin, you have the lawmakers who are trying to move for a ban or some sort of impactful legislation on TikTok because of the concerns about national security surrounding TikTok and ByteDance. So these are the two debates going on in Washington right now. We're going to see who ends up winning it. But right now, as of today, the people pushing for some sort of ban on TikTok appear to be in the lead of this fight. But we'll see when it ends up in the next few months.
Gene, when we're seeing this back and forth on TikTok, does it raise concerns for you about the broader issues with tension with China?
Great reporting today. And I think it did a great job of framing in kind of the surface of everything that's going on, which is really important. And agree with his take that the momentum is moving against TikTok here. But below the surface, I think that there's this question about U.S.-China tensions. And this would be an escalation. This banning of TikTok would be an escalation, as petty as it would sound, between U.S. and China relations. And I suspect, given other geopolitical things that happened between U.S. and China in the last 2 months, that's something that the Biden administration probably doesn't want to pursue right now. They're getting pushed towards that end, but I don't think Biden's going to do it. I think that there will be talk of it, and ultimately he's going to want tensions to cool down. Fast forward 6-12 months from now to the next presidential campaign, I think this is going to be a unifying topic between both sides of the aisle on the presidential candidates. And I suspect that when the new president comes in, whatever side they come from, that a TikTok ban ultimately happens. So I think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen the next year.